On that question as to what that verse in Deuteronomy in Parshat Vaychanan meant when it said that the voice never continued, it didn't stop. The Medrash in Shemos says, Rabbi Yochanan said, it was the voice was divided into 7 different voices, and those into 70 different languages. It didn't stop because it kept dividing and subdividing into different pieces. Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish, the other great Palestinian sage, said, it was the voice from which all the subsequent prophets received their prophecies. That even the subsequent prophets, even those prophets who came later, their authority and the voice of God comes from Sinai. Sinai is the source of all subsequent prophecies. The souls of the prophets were there, received their prophecies at Sinai. Even later prophecies get their source, their power, from Sinai itself. So, according to this view of Reb Shimon ben Lakish, yes, perhaps there is some continuation of the voice from Sinai. But don't forget, even the prophets who seem to have new ideas in Isaiah and other books, their prophecy and their revelation comes from and it originates from Mount Sinai. This notion that on the one hand there can be new ideas, on the other hand everything comes from Sinai, is expressed well in the famous Gemara Menachos, Daf Chav Tes 29a, that speaks about Moshe Rabbeinu wanting to see the generations that come forward. Moshe said, I would like to see the generations of Dorshim, of those who continue the Torah. So God says, turn around. And there Moshe went and he sat behind all the 8 rows of the students. And he's listening to Rabbi Akiva giving his magnificent class. But he has no idea what's going on. And he felt bad. But then when he heard Rabbi Akiva say, where do I know this from? I got it from my teacher who got it from Moshe Rabbeinu. It's halacha l'Moshe miSinai. So then Moshe felt better. The notion is that on the one hand, a brilliant scholar such as Rabbi Akiva can create new ideas which are so magnificent and so new and so nuanced that even Moshe Rabbeinu doesn't recognize them. But on the other hand, if you ask what's the root of it all, where does it all come from? The answer is always, it comes from Mount Sinai. There was nothing new after Mount Sinai. Turning our attention to our more mystical works, the Zohar in Bamidbar says that if you're Amel B'Torah, that if you're engaged in Torah, then it's as if you stood at Mount Sinai and you received the Torah yourself. We know also that in the Shema, it says that Asher Nochi Mitzavcha Hayom, that the commandments are being commanded. These are the words of the commandments were being commanded today. So we say, what do you mean they're commanded today? They were commanded yesterday, thousands of years ago. The Torah is old. Comes Rashi and says, no. Lo yu beinecha kit yutkama yeshana she'ein adam sofna ela chadasha sha'kol ratzin likrasa. You should not view the Torah as some old letter that you throw in the garbage, you put in the wastebasket. The Torah should be viewed as something new, a new letter. Everybody runs to the mailbox to read the new letter. If the Torah is not actually physically calling out to us in a new way each day, then we should view it though as if it's new, as if the revelation is taking place even just today. And now we turn our attention to Shavuos. The Sfas Emes has an idea which is found in earlier sources. For instance, the Edushas Levi Yitzchak of Berditchev has the idea that Chanukah is Vayamim Lahem Bizman Hazeh. It is in those days and in our days. And the Sfas Emes has the same idea regarding Shavuos. That it's the Yom HaBikurim, the day of the first fruits. What does that mean? That on this day the Torah renews itself every year. And that's why it's called the day of first fruits. We get new fruits, new ideas every single Shavuos. Not only that, but the Rashbam takes it a step further. The Rashbam, a much earlier commentator, rabbi, grandson of Rashi in France, he says that his grandfather Rashi once said to him that if he had a chance, he would make Perushim Acherim, he would make other commentaries. Lefi hapshatos hamischadshim b'chol yom. The pshat, the simple interpretation of the Torah, renews itself every day. Every day there's a new way to look at it. Isn't it amazing? Every single Shabbos, rabbis throughout the world get up and they try to make a drasha, an interpretation. Simple Jews around the Shabbos table make a new interpretation, find new insights, because it's mitchadesh b'chol yom. The Torah renews itself like the rising sun every single day. Sfas Emes understands that Mishnah in Pirkei Avos to mean that yes, it's that very same voice of Sinai. That's the one that comes and echoes forth from Sinai every day. That's the one the Mishnah in Pirkei Avos says. It comes forth every day. Because in the Ten Commandments, there was a voice for every day. Just as in the creation, there's a renewal of creation every day, as we say, Mechadish b'tuva b'chol yom tamid masev reishis. God renews creation every day. You know what? God renews the giving of the Torah every single day. And why is it that the Gemara in Rosh Hashanah says that Batzeres nidonin al peros ha'ilan, that we're judged for the fruit of the tree on Shavuos? It means the tree of life, the Torah which we learned is judged every year. The renewal of the Torah, we're judged for it each year. Or the Sfas Emes says in a more midrashic, Hasidic way that Shavuos is not only the holiday of weeks, but it's the holiday of the oath. God made an oath to his people not to change them for any other. We made an oath to God, Na'aseh v'nishma, we will keep the commandments. And these oaths, they're stirred up every Shavuos. It's as if we're renewing our vows, renewing our oath, renewing our nuptials, the wedding and the marriage of God and the Jewish people, every single Shavuos. The After Rebbe, the Ohev Yisrael, writes in Parshas Ki Tetzei that for a person should always have it in front of their mind every minute, as if he stands at Sinai to get the Torah. This is the ideal that we need to strive for. That the Torah at Mount Sinai, that what happened on Shavuos, should be not just on Shavuos, but every day of the year. We should feel that, and we should know it. The Sfas Emes has various approaches to Shavuos, which I'd like to share with you as well. Another way in which the Torah goes on is, as Rashbam says, we get new ideas each day, but there's another idea. Sfas Emes wonders, why do we read the book of Rus on Shavuos? Many answers can be given. He says, you know what Rus is? It's a magnificent thing that a person can do an act of kindness. Ruth did acts of kindness to Naomi. Boaz did acts of kindness to Ruth and Naomi. And with these acts of kindness, you know what they did? They added a new book to the Torah. Now, mind you, there's a difference between a Megillah and the 5 books of Moses, as we said. But in the sense, the Tanakh, the Hebrew Bible, it added an extra book through the deeds of the righteous people. The deeds of the righteous, the Maisa Tzadikim, says the Sfas Emes, says the Gerer Rebbe, are a new Torah. They are a piece of Torah. Our deeds, if we do the right thing, can become a new Megillah, a new scroll. There's a notion that all of the good deeds that we do, one day we written in the Megillah, a scroll of the redemption. And the question is, will we make it in to that particular book? You know, they say that if Reuven knew that he'd be in the Torah for saving Yosef, he would have done a better job. He would have taken Yosef on his shoulders, brought him to his father, and made it into the book. But we forget that B'chol Masecha v'Sefer Nichtavim, all of our deeds are written in the book. We can add to the Torah in that sense. And we could make a new book to the Torah. Lo Tosifu, the Torah says not to add to the Torah, but in some mystical sense, all of our good deeds are an addendum. It's a calcification of the Torah beyond what you can even imagine.